Hello, my name is Ray and I play drums for Haken. You're about to see a lot of information thrown at you because there's quite a lot of stuff going on with my drums, so I'm going to do my best to explain it all in the minute detail that I can be bothered to today. We're in the beautiful city of Utrecht in the Netherlands. Can't wait to play here tonight. So just been doing some maintenance work on my kit to make sure it's nice and shiny and sparkly for you. Shall we start with the drums themselves? As you can probably see, they're very special custom drums, custom wrapped from Natal, the drum company that I am an artist for. Natal very kindly made these beautiful drums with the custom fauna wrap finish. They look incredible. The wrap is like super vibrant. It almost looks like it's been hand painted, which is amazing. I'm very, very fortunate to have that kit. It's a Maple Originals kit, so it is essentially, you know, a kit that you can get sound-wise. You just can't get this finish. It's like a one-of-a-kind kit. So I've got an 8-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch, and a 16-inch. I don't know the depth off the top of my head, but I believe these two are both, I want to say 10-inch depth, and this is like a 8-inch, I can't remember. These two I think are the same depth though. Kick is a 22 by 16, I believe. And then we got the snare drum, which is a Varus snare drum. It's cast steel. I believe it's called the Morpheus Morpheus snare drum. It's a 14 by 6.5, I think. And it's got a cool custom engraving on it. A very scary looking guy with lots of legs who you don't want to mess with is on there. And you might meet him later on my cymbals too. Let's talk about cymbals. We have got a whole range of different Samsun cymbals here. For those who don't know, Samsun are a Turkish handmade cymbal company based in Samsun in Turkey. Again, very fortunate to play their cymbals. They sound beautiful. We've got an old 14-inch hi-hat here. I can't even remember what it is because all the markings have just disappeared. But there's another little scary guy there. This hi-hat has been on a lot of Haken albums, I think. It's a really nice sounding set of hats. We've got a 12-inch FX splash here, absolute brilliant line. Yeah, this is definitely my preferred splash. It's got a really nice tack and it's got that slight trashy sound. A 17-inch thin crash from the absolute regular brilliant line, I believe. Really like the thin crashes. They're very resilient for all the hard hitting that I do, and yet they've still got a nice bright attack and sustain. And again, there's a little scary guy on there too. Effectively the same version of that cymbal, but in a 19-inch size. So these two are kind of quite similar sounding. Obviously you just got the bigger, slightly deeper sounding 19-inch, and these nice raw bells as well, which are great. And then come over here to a kind of thick, well, it's medium. I mean, I would call this a thick ride cymbal, and it's also, is it an absolute brilliant? 21st brilliant line. Got another scary guy on it. I like this. It's got a nice strong bell and a very sort of pingy articulation. So it's good for kind of heavier music, this one, a 20-inch. Then we've got this new china that I've been trying out on this tour, which is the Minotaur range, which I think Samsun have only recently brought out. And this is a 21-inch china, I think. Very loud and aggressive and punchy and domineering, which is what I like in a cymbal. Definitely in a china cymbal. Next, down here, we've got a prototype little stack cymbal. Well, it's not that little. So underneath there's a 12-inch FX china, and on top a 14-inch raw finished FX thin crash. And I have that really tight, so it's got a very, very quick articulation to it. And then the same setup here, but just bigger. So we've got a 16 FX china on the bottom and an 18 on the top FX crash. And I have this quite loose, so it's really, really trashy. And that's a favorite of mine, this guy. So yeah, keep an eye out for these because eventually we want to make them available for people to buy because they're very, very excellent stack cymbals. Next, on the subject of cymbals, you might notice these colourful guys on top, colourful felts, which are made by a company called Cympad. And really, they're kind of decorative felts. It's just nice to have them with the multicoloured drum kit, having multicoloured felts. But underneath the cymbal, I also use Cympads, which actually affect the sound of the cymbal. They just help to control the sound. We've got a lot of mics on stage, vocal mics in particular, so with all the cymbals going on, all the different mics are picking them up and it gets in people's in-ear mixes and it can become overwhelming, including for myself. So having the Cympads underneath, the moderators, you can see the one here on top of the china because they kind of sit inside the bell. Just helps to control the sound a little better. Next, we can talk about heads. So I've got some fresh Evans G2s on the toms today. G1s as resonant heads. I'm currently playing a Power Center reverse dot coated on the 14-inch, and then there's a 300 resonant head underneath. You might also notice these interesting microphones. Very, very little guys here. They're called Soundhoop mics, and on the toms they're actually integrated into the hoop. So there's a special hoop made particularly or specifically to house that little capsule. And then I've got a little Audix clamp for the snare one because I like the Varus snare hoop. I don't like this real thin Soundhoops hoop on my snare. I prefer this kind of thicker feel. And then we've also got triggers, the Roland triggers on the toms. That's more for our front of house person's job to help gate the toms so the mics aren't constantly picking up. Again, we don't want to interfere with people's in-ear mix and also with the front of house mix. Next, well, you might notice I'm holding some interesting looking drumsticks. These are the Techra Black Diamond 5B Super Grip sticks. So they're like carbon fiber. They feel very similar to me to a regular 5B wooden stick, but they're just incredibly durable. So on a tour like this, when we're playing for 3 hours every day, I'd get through several pairs of sticks per night. But I've only been playing maybe 2 or 3 different pairs of Techra throughout the whole tour, and I still haven't broken one. Just kind of rotating them each night. Oh, on the subject of sticks, I've also got these really nice timpani mallets that a fan made for me. He's based in Chicago area, I think, and he makes timpani mallets, and he gave me these when we were in North America earlier this year, and they're very, very nice. They're a bit disheveled looking now, but I use them only for one little bit in the set. What else? Pedals are Tama Iron Cobra. I think they're the 900 Power Glide. I've been using those for years. I don't really own many pedals, but these ones seem to work nicely for me. I've also got a trick drive shaft connecting the 2 pedals, which helps with the kind of latency. They just have a smoother feel when you have that drive shaft on them. Next, I've got this guy that I'm sitting on, which is a Porter & Davies BC2. It's basically a butt kicker, so it's kind of connected to this guy, which sends me a feed of not just the kick drum, but also the entire drum kit, and Connor, our bass player, is also getting fed through my bum. So yeah, that's nice. That's a very satisfying feeling each night. What else? We should get onto the more electronic-y side of things, perhaps. We've got a playback system here because we run clicks and tracks every night. So we've got 2 of these units, which are made by a company called Cympad, which I don't think exists anymore. Funnily enough, as we're in the Netherlands, I believe they're were a Dutch company. It's called Utrecht 24. And these 2 are running in tandem. So if one cuts out in the middle of a show, it automatically switches to the other one using this radial DI switcher. So that's quite a nifty way of sort of running a redundant playback system and sort of lowering your risk in a live setting. And this is just a battery charger for the other guys who have got wireless monitor packs. I run a wired monitor pack, this Fisher Amps thing. That does the job for me, so I plug in there. It's connected to the world's most expensive monitor holding unit, which is my spare cymbal bag. I just think that's one of the easiest ways to keep a wired belt pack without it falling or anything like that on the floor, which is annoying during the show. I've also got these guys, Audio 64 or 64 audio, in-ear monitors. I think they're the 6-driver ones, AT6 I think they're called. So they're very, very nice. And then we have the SPD SX. So this is the old SPD. Roland have since brought out a new one. However, my only gripe with the new one is that you can't kind of improvise on the fly with these effects buttons because it doesn't have these effects buttons on the new one. And we have a little improv section in our set where I screw around with these effects kind of spontaneously. And on the new SPD SX Pro, to do that spontaneously on the fly is basically not possible. So I'm sticking with this old guy because it's working perfectly for me. I've got a little foot pedal down there on the floor as well to operate any patch changes that I need to do during the show. There are a few quite quick patch changes in some of the songs. Vocal mic is a Shure Beta 56, I want to say. That's just been my only ever vocal mic. It's the most sort of compact one that's good that I can find for sort of drumming. So, and then it's mounted on a gooseneck. What else am I missing? Oh yeah, I got this guy, the Yamaha E8010. So that's connected up to this microphone and drum trigger, which is mounted to the bass drum. So I use that for recording little live videos when we're on tour, but it's also a great practice tool at home. It's just a very, very versatile piece of equipment to have. So that's a fun one to bring on tour. All the hardware is Gibraltar. So I've got a big Gibraltar rack, bunch of arms and hi-hat stand, and that seems to be extremely durable. I've never really had any issues with it. It just kind of is great for everyday sort of touring use. This is a small but important detail, which for me is a bit of a game changer, and that is the Gibraltar quick lock hi-hat clutch, or quick release, quick lock and quick release. So you can get the hi-hat on and off super quick. Not only does it speed up the kind of time of setting up the hats, which is good, what's more important is it just doesn't ever come loose. With like traditional hi-hat clutches, usually the bottom nut over time, I find anyway, will come loose, which is really annoying. So you don't get a consistent hi-hat tension, and sometimes the hi-hat actually comes off. Whereas with this, it just stays in exactly the same position all the time, and it's really quick and easy to remove and to mount to the clutch. So yeah, that's a bit of a game changer for me. Oh, and how can I possibly forget these two buddies of mine on the front of the kit? We've got a guy called Mr. Simmy that someone gave me in Mexico, and he's got a fauna shirt on, which is great. So he has to come with me on tour now. And then we've got this little I Love Sweden reindeer that a Swedish fan gave us in Sweden earlier on in this tour. So a couple of little fun guys to keep me company on the drum riser throughout the night. Of course, I got Brian as well, Brian the chimp, on the bass drum. If you're still awake, thanks for staying awake.